sports made me realize that I am kind of soft in the nicest ways.
Ashton, this is an absolute joy. Thank you so much for the time. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Happy to talk with you.
I'm happy to talk to you too. It's funny, remakes are not new. This is not a new practice, but Youngblood is a film that desperately needed one, and I think that you are just fabulous in this film, and I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. Can you talk about the legacy of the original and why you wanted to lace up the skates?
I mean, I wanted to lace up the skates because as an actor, I want to work. you know, it
Fair
kind of
enough, fair enough.
yeah,
Understood.
it kind of starts there, but then once you kind of look at it and understand what it is, then for me it was about on not like I've always felt like what we were able to do has a lot of heart in the first one. It has a lot of the heart from the first one, but we also took different moments and fleshed them out a little bit more so that old audiences can still come and feel like that warm hug that they once had, but also have a new experience so they weren't like watching a frame for frame, remake. I always find those not to be too interesting, but yeah, yeah, and I hope that in 40 years like we can also be a cult classic to the cult classic.
Honestly, I think it works. It works great, and like you said, it never loses the joy of the original, but it also brings this other heartbeat to it that I think makes it not only feel current but so relevant.
Right, right.
Um, I would love to hear for you on your thoughts on Dean because there's some fascinating conversations going on in here. Like for example, one about losing to yourself. And I
Mm.
feel like Dean is one of those characters who seems to be doing that. And I wonder, in your mind, what do you think that means and how does it apply to him?
Yeah, I think he has so many internal battles he's trying to figure out whilst also navigating the external battles. His dad is also very regimented, has a specific way he wants Dean to approach not only the game of hockey, but approach life. And it was fun to navigate that because ultimately we're trying to see Dean come to an understanding for himself about who he is and who he wants to be in the world. So as he's this idea of not losing to yourself, I think that's like a universal theme in that anyone can connect to. Who do I want to be? Who am I? And how do I move through the world for myself, not for my parents, not for my friends, not for anyone else but me?
Well, you mentioned his dad, and it's this relationship with his dad that you can just feel the weight of that.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear more about this because I mean, or your thoughts on Dean's relationship with his dad because there is this sense of passing trauma, his own very real trauma down to his son. And I think at one point he even says, "We can only teach what we have."
Yes, yes, yes. What we know, we can only teach what we
Oh, we
know. This
know,
this
we
this,
know, yeah.
this sense of, and I think being a parent is really difficult. I don't have kids, but it's my like because I go like if you push too much, that affects the child. If you're like the parent who's just like hands back, that affects the child. If you're the parents who you don't do anything at all, that affects it. Like it's like no matter what you do, it's something is going to be passed down. And I think for Blaine, what's really interesting about what Blair Underwood was able to do was that while he is very overbearing towards his kids, it is born out of love because that's all he knows. He knows is to approach life this way because that's all he had. And I think for Dean, his mom, he's more like his mother as opposed to his dad. So like that through line and losing his compass of some sense without, saying too much. But like he does get this sense of finding his way back to his mom by the end in that scene that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting. Blair is so good. The two of you together is just these wonderful scenes, and he's not abusive, but he's not nice.
No,
Uh,
no.
there's a lot of tension there. I would love to hear too your thoughts on like the sports, not just the sports movie, but the sports in general. Like there's a comment in the film says that sports doesn't build character, it reveals it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that's true, and how does it pertain in this film?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I've never thought about that. But to think about it in this moment, sports allowed me to understand. It's interesting. My sports aspect compared to Dean's was totally different. Sports made me realize that I am kind of soft in the nicest ways. Where if we're on the basketball court, which I used to play often, I am coming for your head. But it's not in a way that like it means anything to me. It's just, the aggression of sport and the competitive nature of sport that I find really beautiful. And in Dean's aspect, or in Dean's case, he kind of loses the through line of the joy of sport because it becomes about something else for him. I was speaking to someone like sometime this week, and they were talking about safe spaces. And I think sport is actually a safe space for young people to explore and learn about themselves in a healthy way. It's we see in Dean's case, it kind of gets a little unhealthy, but finding his way back to that because when you're in sport, the people that you are going through that journey with are also on that path. So you can connect there. And there's like you also have a through line of people who are having the same experience as you. So I've always found sport to be really beautiful in its own way.
Yeah, that's interesting you say about safe spaces. It's funny when you think about that in a film like this because for some of these players, it is not physically safe.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
we see that in a couple of spots.
Yeah, but it's also this thing about the like when it I find fighting in hockey is so it's like there's a deep respect for the game towards it. It's about trying to swing momentum. It's about trying to stand up for your team. It's about, so it's as 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 vicious as it is. I feel like the players' respect for it doesn't like push it so far onto like the toxic masculinity side, but it is kind of like aggressive and it's teaching something. So it's a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah, there's a lot that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Just from an actor's perspective or just a young man. What I don't want to say too much, but that post-credit scene that was added on later.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because I mean, you're stepping on. I guess I'm saying you're stepping onto the ice here uh,
They released
in a
the clip.
major setting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, it's out there a little bit, but you bring that up and it breaks my heart because I didn't get to do it. Yeah, yeah.
Really?
We
What
were so we
happened?
were really gunning to make it happen, and I needed a visa because we had to shoot with the LA Kings.
Yeah.
And I got the visa on October 7th, and I needed it for October 4th. So I wasn't able to go down. Some kid in LA lived the most beautiful experience while I was in my bedroom sulking the entire day.
Oh
But
no! Oh,
through movie
that
magic,
genuinely breaks my heart. I'm so
right?
sorry.
I was pretty gutted for some reason, but I'm gonna go down to LA and we're gonna do a bunch of stuff with the King. So that's it'll maybe I'll get my moment. But through movie magic, we're able to kind of piece it together and make it seamless. So
Yeah, yeah, I believe that. Well, to be honest too, I understand why you'd be gutted because this is a film, this is a story, and that's the real life at the same
yeah,
time. So it's kind of a
that's like an
different thing.
experience that you
Yeah.
you would never have. But at this honestly, I've thought about it a lot, and I do wonder if it was for the best because I'm like, what if I got out there and I just caved under the pressure, because we had such a limited amount of time to film those things. So I'm like, maybe it was for the best that we had a professional out there who was able to just get in, get out, get really precise with the shots, and I could then sell it on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I see that. I know we're starting to run out of time, Ashton, and I mean, like I said, the film is great, but what do you hope audiences take away from the new Youngblood?
Oh man. That's always a difficult question for me because it feels like such a subjective thing. Like I've gone to movies and tripped on my way in and my popcorn has fell and like I hated the movie no matter how good it was, you know. So sometimes it feels hard to, but I don't know. I think I do hope that people can connect to what it is for young professional athletes to be on that journey, but also through that what it is to find yourself, to be the version of yourself that you want to be, as you're moving through life, as you're moving through the space, that we're paying attention to who we are and if we are ourselves for ourselves, you know? So that's like a slight hope of mine. And also that they love it and that they tell their friends about it and that Canadian films can continue to, do well and that we can just do it do it more often.
Honestly, all of that is great. Now I'm hoping that nobody trips and drops their popcorn as well,
Yeah.
because it is a great film,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and you're great in it. Honestly, Ashton, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
No, thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you. This is great.